Okay, folks, here we go with another episode. It's KP's Video News, and today I'm gonna talk on a couple of different topics. But first of all, let's everybody just go ahead on and get subscribed by hitting that red and white button right there, so you can get subscribed to KP's Video News, so you can get all my latest videos. Also, don't forget to hit that bell. Looks like a bell up in the corner, that notification bell. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. You know, share with your friends and family, and leave a comment. Leave comment in the comment section, and yeah, KP's Video News. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about, like I said, I'm gonna talk about a lot of different subjects here today, and one of the main things I'm gonna talk about right now is how Black people have been systematically cheated. Cheated for a long, long time financially. And so Andrew Carl, which is a historian, he just wrote a new book, and it looks at the many systematic ways that prejudice and harmful practice have affected the financial stability of Black people. And property value assessment may not sound like it's like a topic that a lot of people may not want to talk about, but property value is that's how you create generational wealth with for the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. The property that you own, that you leave, things that you leave for your kids. I'm talking about homes and bank accounts and stocks and bonds, gold, things of actual value. Actual value. I'm not talking about, well, somebody just left you some clothes or some, you know, or a rusty, beat up old car or something like that. Nah, I'm talking about something. I'm talking about generational wealth that could be passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. It can go from father to son, from son to grandson. But anyway, Carr argues for decades how the assessment process for homes has been used against African Americans, leading to them to pay more than their fair share in property taxes, despite receiving fewer benefits than those living in a white dominated area. These unequal taxes have had all sorts of downline repercussions, making them a missing piece of the puzzle when it comes to inequality in the United States. Carl traces this story back to America's post-Civil War period, 1865. A delegation of Black leaders told the victorious General Sherman that in order to guarantee their freedom, what they needed was land of their own. In the post-war South, tax policy immediately became a tool of social engineering. In some cases, it was being used to force Black people back on to plantations. But it was also used by progressive governments to break up large estates to make way for Black landowners, ultimately fueling the sharp increase in Black land holdings during these years. Allegedly, and by the beginning of the 20th century, the Black tax was taking shape. Carl finds that, among others, W.E.B. Du Bois, and I've been telling you guys about this guy, in Georgia, shed light on the fact that property held by wealthy enjoyed wholesale undervaluation, while a very small estate of the poor were overvalued. The Black-owned land was mostly overassessed, missing the assessment process to overvalue Black land by at least 50%, in spite of Black people generally being afforded inferior parcels of land to white people. Was one of the way that power brokers were setting the stage to perpetuate forms of exploitation and segregation against Black residents. In the 20th century marched forward, a suburban development began in earnest. The assessment process began and became a sufficient and significant factor in white flight. Because of unfair tax practices against African Americans, white could actually have lower tax rates, generate higher overall tax returns. Carl explained that kind of sweet deal was predicated on excluding African Americans from those housing markets. It really incentivized the segregation impulse of suburban communities. The impacts were astonishing. In one example, unfair tax regimes led to extreme differences in funding of public schools, meaning that nearly half of African American students in Chicago public schools did not get a full day's education in the 1950s compared to only 2% of white people. According to Carl, while other civil rights reforms were being made in the 1960s, the black tax skated by unscathed. Ultimately, as he puts it in the black tax, for the post Jim Crow generation of black Southerners, these locals struggled to gain control over tax administration, became a key battleground in the larger fight to dismantle white supremacy's fiscal structure. Even in places where black people managed to wrestle control of municipal power, the forms of discrimination that had been built into the community power structures remained tenacious, and the black tax provided hard to dismantle. Today, the black tax largely survives via forms of systematic inequality. What we often see now is bias or favoritism towards certain types of property and property owners, like high-end development. The wealthy may have greater access to political leverage, or they are better able to utilize the tax appeals process. It's not necessarily an assessor who's conniving to overtax certain populations anymore. His example is that he notes the black tax by 2005, black people were well overrepresented among holders of subprime mortgages, despite not generally posing a higher risk to lenders. This had repercussions in terms of property taxes, where black borrowers were more likely to be suddenly hit by a demand for a lump sum payment, whereas those who were not in the subprime market did not tend to receive such treatment. These shocking demands for property tax payments were a significant driver of defaults among black borrowers. Property taxes needn't necessarily be a source of discrimination, Carl stated, but it's the only wealth tax that we have in the country. It could be a great source of progressive taxation, but in practice, it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. There are solutions to the problem, and the U.S. is the only federated nation in the world without a system to ensure fiscal equity in the local government on a local level. Germany, Canada, India, and Australia have fiscal equity programs. In those nations, the federal government ensures there's a baseline where federal dollars are delivered to localities based on need. That at least would be a first good step. Pointed to the finger at the Reagan administration, which began the defunding of local governments that has continued to snowball during the 1980s, resulting in things like unclean water, the resurgence of formerly controlled diseases, and the use of fines and fees to bolster local budgets. So some solutions have been applied in U.S. localities in 2017. For instance, the Chicago Tribune reported on unequal assessment, leading to public outcry and the election of Fritz Kegel, who campaigned on the promise to reform the system and who has largely kept that promise, shifting the property tax burden from homeowners to large commercial interests. Carl hopes that these actions will be a larger lead to larger and larger reforms of local governments, and wherever we live, we should work toward correcting these problems. Yep. So we got to get that book, man. It's called The Black Tax. Yep, telling you, man. It's by Carl. Let's see his name again. The Black Tax by Andrew Carl. Yep, got to get that book, man. Got to get it. Yeah, so it's a lot of little hanky panky that's been going on here. So this next story is really disturbing It was like in a case, in a case of sweeping alleged misconduct that threatens to upend the convictions of 35 death row cases, a district attorney's office in California has announced it has found a series of handwritten notes indicating prosecutors may have intentionally excluded Black and Jewish Americans from a jury pool of roughly 40 years ago. The announcement was made Monday by Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price, and it was the U.S. District Judge uh, Vince Chibria of Northern California District that asked Price's office to investigate these notes, especially when considered in conjunction with the evidence presented in other cases, constitute strong evidence that in prior decades, prosecutors from Alameda County District Attorney's Office were engaged in a pattern of serious misconduct, automatically excluding Jewish and African American jurors in death penalty cases. The Barack Obama appointed judge who oversees the review, and the notes stem from a case of Ernest Dykes. Dykes was sentenced to die in 1995 after the jury found that he murdered Lance Clark, a 9-year-old boy and the son of his landlord, Bernice Clark, by shooting him. Dykes found, the jury found, had only attempted to kill Bernice Clark during a robbery, but Dykes, who is now 51 years old, has appealed the sentence as he sits on death row. So it takes a long time to determine how widespread the potential trial violations may go, but mandated to root out the unethical behavior. This is about ethics to ensure every person charged with a crime receives a fair trial, the district attorney stated, and it appears that the prosecutors in Alameda County intentionally excluded Black and Jewish jurors. Only a few of the handwritten notes were released this week after being under seal. A review of the federal docket in California shows some of the family members of the people on death row in California have already been notified. And Price asked people who have been affected to call a victims witness advocate program. And yep, they've been doing it, excluding Blacks and Jewish people from death penalty cases in Northern California, Alameda County. So this situation right here in a whole different state in North Carolina has to do with the judge striking down North Carolina felon voting laws. And a federal judge has struck down a North Carolina law criminalizing voting for people with felony convictions. The law, originally passed in 1877, made it a Class 1 felony for people who vote in North Carolina without having their rights restored. But on Monday, U.S. District Judge Loretta Biggs wrote that the law was enacted with discriminatory intent, has not been cleansed of its discriminatory taint, and continues to disproportionately impact Black voters. Although Black Americans make up 13% of the U.S. population, 1/3 of Black men have at least one felony conviction, according to a 2017 report. Black North Carolinians account for nearly 53% of the state's prison population, although they only make up 21% of North Carolina's overall adult population, according to a 2016 report from the nonpartisan racial justice organization, North Carolina CRED. In 2020, North Carolina Philip Randolph Institute and action brought the suit to court, alleging that the law violated the constitutional equal protection clause by targeting Black voters. Voting rights have become a major topic of concern for Black leaders, including the Congressional Black Caucus ahead of the 2024 election. Advocates have expressed concerns that voter suppression tactics disproportionately affect Black Americans from exercising their right to vote. The North Carolina Constitution bans felons from voting unless their rights have been restored by state law, though a law passed last year clarified that only those who knew their rights had not been restored could be charged with a new felony. But Biggs on Monday pointed out the law's potential in arbitrary enforcement. Record evidence demonstrating this inconsistency in the district attorney's interpretation and enforcement of the challenge statute that some believe that the challenge statute included a requirement of intent while others did not. Compels the conclusion that the challenge statute permits a standard list sweep that allows prosecutors to pursue their personal predilections under the challenge statute. It's unclear how the ruling could impact the November's election. I'm telling you, man, these guys are up to a lot of hanky panky, man. A lot of stuff that it's just crazy how this stuff they be doing. Now here we go with one of these walking while blacks type situations, and so it's a viral video that went viral here, and it's about a black content creator that was out minding his own business, trying to do what he was doing, and he was finger checking this guy who seemed interrupted him while he was recording, and the video posted by Tack Method, the fitness influencer with more than 700,000 followers, is seen in the face-to-face with the man. Very careful, he told the man repeatedly while tapping his sunglasses. Listen to what I said. I said, be very careful. Why are you disturbing everyone? The man said. Who are you? Are you the police? Tack asked the man before pointing out to an officer in the area. If there was a problem, he would come right away to handcuff me. The content creator told the man that he had the right to respond to his question and to react how he impolitely approached him. After a brief conversation, Tack emphasized that he didn't want to fight the man, and they went their separate ways. Other videos of the influencer's page from the same day show him gleefully working out on the boardwalk in California while onlookers cheered him on, and he took pictures with him. And the comments of his video, Tack claimed that the man put his hands on his cameraman. Yep. Yeah. So it's like, yeah. Yep. So this is what it comes down to, and yep. So the guy was like, yeah, he had to do what he had to do, man. He had to do what he had to do. Yep. So to protect himself, you out there minding your business. So what gives you the right to come over and interfere with what I'm doing? Like you just, these people have lost their damn minds out here, and they want to go back. We want to live like it was back in the 20s. We want to be able to just run up on black people and just stop them from doing whatever it is they doing and tell them what to do and this and that and that. And it's not going to happen. It's not happening, and it never will happen, not in this day and age. So you can forget that. Anyway, it's KP's Video News, y'all. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, and don't forget to like and comment on this video. KP